about marketing pretty much the rest of the day. Standing here is Richard Roop, who hails from Woodland, Colorado. Richard is a marketing expert. In fact, was a marketing expert before he got into real estate. Now he's a real estate marketing expert. And so I'm just going to let Richard tell you what his life looks like out there right now. And later on this afternoon, he'll tell you about this kick-butt postcard program that he's put together. So go ahead and tell him what goes on in your life, Rich.
Well, it's actually a real pleasure to be here. I'm excited to be here. I am indebted to Ron, so that's why I'm here. He has really transformed my life as far as the real estate business, and I have already sent him a couple letters which he requires. The first letter was when I made my first $1 million, and I sent him a second letter for my second million, and that was actually a couple years ago.
Probably hotel.
I have a full-time real estate business. I only work it about 20 hours a week. So I have a couple of staff people help me run that. So I'm working it part-time. I typically buy 3 or 4 houses each month, mostly for little or no money. I'm real big on the pretty house business, but then as we talk about later this afternoon on what I'm going to share is the best marketing system that I've found over the years. I have a number of different ways to get sellers calling me, but putting a lot of the things that I've worked over the years together, I found one system where I'm going to be, that's the only new money I spend on marketing is on this one system for myself. I set it up about a year ago, and it took a year to set it up, and I set it up a year ago. Now that it's all set up, I've laid it out, and I'll teach you step by step how to do that today.
And you're debuting it here, aren't you?
I've spoken a few times on it, but yeah, I mean, this is the first time you're going to hear it.
Okay, thank you.
Actually,
could have helped me and just lied a little bit for crying out loud.
Actually, I'm working with Donna because she's using it for Ron's business.
Oh, she is? Cool.
Yeah.
Good.
He's a little clueless sometimes. But you know.
Sit down. Shut up, Richard.
We both have several different revenue streams, and this is the year that I decided to really get out and promote some of the stuff that I've been doing for myself and my business and sharing it with other investors. I've done it on a small scale, but the money you make in real estate, buying and selling houses, it's very hard to take time away from that to build other businesses. But now that I got a good staff, I got good systems that leverage myself, now I can come to an events like this. There isn't a better place on the planet for me to be than here today. This group here, I mean, I couldn't be speaking to a better qualified group of investors to teach this system to and make the biggest difference. So
thank you.
That's why I'm here today. And
okay.
I'm from Woodland Park, Colorado. Oh, all right.
That's his family.
Just real briefly, for the past 5 years, I've been looking for the ideal piece of land to build my dream home on. In November, I achieved that goal. I looked for it for 5 years. I found 40 acres of land up in the mountains behind Pikes Peak near Colorado Springs. 2 sides is 850 acres of national forest. Used to be 1 million acres until the Hayman fire last year. Burned out 150,000 acres, but 850,000 acres of national forest, and then the other 2 sides, it's square, the other 2 sides is 800 acres of a Girl Scout camp. So it's a little island of land, beautiful views. It was a major long-term goal for me to find that. I wouldn't have been able to buy that property. That was $400,000 for that, just the piece of land with a small house on it with no electricity. But we're designing our house now, we're going to build that. So that's one thing that this business has done for me. The other thing is...
Are you inviting us all out to...
I am actually having a customer appreciation thing at my house next month.
All right, thank you, Richard. Let's move over here to Kathy. Kathy Kennebrook. Stand up, Kathy. Oh, you are standing up. Sorry.
It wouldn't be an event if he didn't have to do that. I'm Kathy Kennebrook, better known as the Marketing Magic Lady. I am from Bradenton, Florida. We have been in the real estate business since 1999. You'll be hearing a lot more about what I do later on this afternoon. I am also a marketing guru. I am one of the top leading experts in the country when it comes to direct mail advertising. We do primarily 70% of our business with nothing but direct mail. And last year, you'll hear this later, but we sent out 13,000 letters total, and we cleared actually $835,000. So I think that direct mail advertising works really well for me. I am also...
Guys want to learn how to do that? Yeah. Okay. So Kathy sends out letters. Richard's going to talk. We're going to talk about sending out postcards. Between the two of them, we got it nailed. Absolutely.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. I am also indebted to Ron. I owe him dearly for getting me into the business to begin with, for teaching me all the things that it's taken us this far to get to. You guys are incredibly blessed to have someone like this as a teacher.
Thanks,
and putting an event together like this.
Okay. By the way, Richard, you once told me you're now making approximately $20,000 a week in real estate. Is that still true?
About 27.
27.
Don't give me a pay cut.
Okay. All right. You can sit down now, Richard.
Okay.
All right. I'm going to just work with these guys all day long. They're here. Might as well use them, right? Okay. Let's get into our manuals, and we got to get moving because we got to get through this stuff today to make sure that you guys have more than you can do when you get back home. On page 69, you'll see the 4 major ways to profit in real estate. We're going to discuss 2 of them heavily in this class, and we're going to not discuss the other 2 much. Now, retailing we're going to touch on tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to let Robin handle that. However, we're going to spend most of our time ugly business wholesaling, pretty business getting the deed. We're not doing lease options or options in this event, except that we are going to be talking about lease options to sell the properties you get the deed on and/or the ugly ones that you renovate. The reason, can't get it in. Bigger reason, too much for you guys to absorb. And I want you to start doing the easy stuff, getting money rolling in, and you can decide whether you want to go further. So we're going to focus on number 1 and number 3, which should easily get anybody in this room that wants to out of a job at lightning speed. How many of you honestly expect to be out of your job by the end of the year? Okay, why on earth will it take you that long? Guys, that's 7 months from now. I hope by the time you get out of here, you realize it don't take 7 months to replace any income anybody in this room's got. And some of you are in a pretty high income. Some of you make pretty substantial 6-figure incomes. All that tells me is that you're at a level to escalate faster than somebody that's used to a $40,000 a year job. You have less of a mental hurdle to overcome. I don't care what you make for a living. There's nobody in this room that can't replace their income within the next 3 or 4 months if you really want to. It's up to you. I've seen it done too many times. I've seen it done many, many, many times. So, of course, now if you don't want to replace your income, if you want to keep doing what you're doing, that's fine with me. In fact, I'm all for it. I now work out of my home. I've had an office most of my life, but now I'm working out of my home and I'm loving it. Donna and John are working out of their home. The 3 of us do not have an office. And we're running our business. We have 18, 20 houses working for us. They don't work in my home. I don't work in their home. We work out of our homes respectively. We get together every now and then. And in fact, I hope they brought some deals here for me to discuss because we couldn't get to them before we left home. Next page, page 70, there's 5 steps. I hope everybody in this room have seen these 5 steps. If you haven't, take a good hard look because they're critical. And if you're having a problem in your business, the problem is one of these 5 steps. We're going to go through all 5 of these steps, both pretty and ugly, before we leave here. And in fact, on the last day alone is devoted to number 5. Tomorrow we're going to talk about selling wholesale junkers pretty quick. Frankly, a brain-dead idiot could do that. That's one of the simplest things to do in the business. But we're also going to discuss on the 4th day whether you want to cash out or whether you want to put a lease option tenant in there. We're going to go through that process on the 4th day. So the number 5, we're holding for the 4th day. Number 1, locating prospects, we're going to take care of today. Number 2, 3, and 4 will happen during the next 2 days and partially on the 5th day or 4th day as well. You will see my motto on page 71, the less I do, the more I make, which is going to be one of the hardest lessons you're going to have to incorporate because, frankly, anybody can learn how to buy and sell houses. It's really not that hard. And I'm going to caution all of you to try to not overcomplicate it as you will. It's human nature to overcomplicate it. It's not that hard. The people who are doing the most are doing the least. because they have learned most of the stuff real estate entrepreneurs, and in fact most of the stuff people in business do all day, doesn't make a difference. It's waste of time. It's stuff to keep them busy. And it's easy to be busy, isn't it? Like a rat in a cage running around in a circle. It's easy to keep busy doing stuff. But you don't need to keep busy doing stuff. You need to focus on the things that will create the revenue. First one is locating prospects, because without that, there is no revenue. That's why it's very important that as we go through these 8 things today we're going to do, you pick out a minimum of 3 that you want to incorporate. Make a note. By the way, there's plenty of places in the back to make a note. Make a note. You've got to pick out 3 things, minimum of 3, that you want to do. If you pick out 3 and implement them, you'll be in the 6-figure incomes within the next 90 to 120 days if you actually follow up on the leads you get and learn the pre-screening stuff we're going to talk about in the next couple of days. If you pick 6 out of the 8 and implement them, I promise you, if you implement them the way we're going to talk about implement them and have 6 things working to drive leads in, you're going to be in the $1 million club very, very quickly, certainly by the time I see you next year. In this business, gosh, it just doesn't take much to be in the $1 million club, meaning you have create $1 million worth of cash and equities in the course of a year. And I'm thinking about starting a $1 million club and having a very elite group of people who have created $1 million worth of cash of equities in a year. Truthfully, when you get to the level of Kathy or Richard or many of you in the room, that's nothing. That's really nothing, guys. Think about how many deals that is in a year. Depending on how much profit, the average profit nationwide at a poll at our convention a year or so ago was $27,200. Average profit nationwide per deal. Now that is cash plus equities. Divide that into $1 million. You're looking at 35 or 40 deals a year if you hold true to that. And many of you are going to make much more profit per deal than that. Young lady who just put $61,000 in her IRA. I've heard deals $200,000. I think it just doesn't take that many. So I want you to get out of this mindset of swapping hours for dollars, being happy to work for $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 a year, and understand you're in a different world now. We will not condone those chump change amounts of money in our world. We make that kind of money on one stinking deal. Not a whole year's worth of work swapping hours for dollars. So it's a giant leap to get beyond where you've been all your life and all of the conditioning that you've had from your relatives and friends and associates that you hang around with who want to keep you broke, to cross this bridge to where the real money is. $1 million a year. No big deal. How many of you think you deserve $1 million a year? Okay. Well, we'll see what you're going to do to get it. Because it is going to require some action on your part. And I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have pain. You're going to have doubt. You're going to get challenged. The dream stealers are coming after you. People who want to keep you broke are going to work overtime. And some of them have got your last name. And unfortunately, they're going to get many of you sitting right here in the room. Only about 60% of you are going to succeed. Who are the other 40%? Well, my statistics tell that 64% of my boot camp graduates actually go out and succeed and do so within a short time. Succeeds mean they're making several $1,000s. Obviously, many of them are escalating way up. Some are staying down. Some of you are not going to make it because you will let the dream stealers come and get you. You'll believe them instead of believing us. Because you go home, there's a hurdle that gets in your way, something doesn't go right, something you heard doesn't go exactly like you heard it, so you condition yourself or allow them to condition you to believe that they're right and I'm wrong. I am not wrong. This stuff works, and it works every single city where every human being in this room lives. With or without you, it's going to work there. If it doesn't work for you, it's going to work for somebody else. We're going to go through the systems to make it work. If you'll just follow the systems the way I lay them down, slightly adapt them as you need, get help when you need it, you're going to be in the $1 million club very, very quickly. Today we're going to talk about locating these prospects, and I would like for you to make a note. I don't want anybody in the room spending more than $2,000 a month locating prospects. And I don't want most of you spending that. Make a note. Your top budget for generating leads is $2,000 a month. If you're spending more than that, put on the brakes. You're overkilling it. You're spending money in the wrong places. I'm going to try. I think I want you to try to spend $1,000 a month, because I'll bet you with $1,000 a month you can get more deals coming in than you can handle. Is that a fair expenditure to ask you to make to create $1 million worth of income? Yeah, okay. $1,000 a month. Some of you will do much better than that, but I don't want anybody spending more than $2,000. Number 73, page 73, purpose of this system. It is to crank up your buying machine. That's all we're going to try to do today, is crank up your buying machine. Please understand, getting leads coming in is not going to solve your problem unless you harvest those leads. We'll handle that the next 3 days. But today we got to get that buying machine working and locating prospects. Page 74, what to expect. Very simple. Whatever you expect, the opposite will happen. In the world of marketing, nothing happens the way it's planning. No campaign works out the way it's supposed to. Some work out better, some don't work out at all. You're going to fail miserably. You're going to take a lot of tums. You're going to get upset. You're going to get mad at yourself. And probably mad at me. By the way, I can assure you, before we leave here, I'm going to piss somebody off. It's just the way it is. Because getting this message from me to you means a lot more to me than being cautious of your feelings. Sometimes you have to take a 2x4 upside people's head to get their attention. Sometimes you have to tell them the truth even when they're not really ready for the truth. But sooner or later, most people realize that the truth is really what they're looking for. They just weren't ready to accept it at that point. If I make you mad, sorry. Get over it. Grow up. Get on with it. My job is to teach you how to do what I do and so many thousands of my students are doing. And I'm going to teach it my way. And I'm not changing for anybody. All right, page 76. Very important ingredient. And page 77. 77, nobody in this room has seen before because I created it. Guys, if you fail, you're most likely going to fail right here. You cannot and should not be dealing with people who do not want to deal with you. You have to locate prospects, but then immediately pre-screen them. With the information that we're going to give you over the next couple of days, you'll be able to pre-screen them at lightning speed. For those of you who don't get it, come back, do it again. Listen to the tapes till you can't stand it anymore. But you've got to get it. Because pre-screening is the key to the kingdom. Pre-screening is the difference between making a lot of money and making a little money. Pre-screening means you have to be able to recognize someone who doesn't want to do business with you very quickly. And again, I'm going to cover that, both ugly and pretty. And I'm going to make sure you get it, I hope, before you leave here. You cannot deal with unmotivated sellers. You got to whack them. Not only do you have to whack them, I want you to whack them permanently. I don't even want to follow up with them. If they're not motivated today, they're not worthy of your attention tomorrow. Get rid of them. Get them out of your life forever and deal with a handful who passed the pre-screening test. Step 1, locating prospects. Step 2, pre-screening them. I don't know which one of those is more important because really you won't get anywhere if you miss either one of those. Step 1, locating them. Step 2, pre-screening them. The less I do, the more I make. Can only be incorporated when you learn to pre-screen the prospects you locate. Because I'll tell you right now, it won't be long before you're going to have more prospects than you can handle if you implement a minimum of 3 of the things that this team is going to discuss today. Deal with people who want to deal with you and whack the rest. And that, I'll tell you, that goes even beyond sellers. That goes with everybody in your business. That goes with everybody in your life, for that matter, including some of your relatives. Next time somebody gets in your face and tries to tell you how to run your life, how to run your business, how they think it ought to be, whack them. All right. You must find sellers who need to sell, not want to sell. Then separate them at lightning speed and deal only with those who want to deal with you. Don't ever forget that. In fact, you know what I'd do if I were you? I'd take this piece of paper out of here, I'd make a sign out of it, and I'd put it in my office where I work. The next time somebody tries to make you justify your existence on the planet to them, remember this. Ron says, whack them. Get rid of them. I'm going to tell you right now, just for the record, we're going to get into this. Anybody who's asking retail price for their property is out of here. At lightning speed, it is over. That fast. Next page. How to find motivated sellers. We're going to spend all day on that. There's only 2 ways to find them. You either go to them or try to get them to come to you. And we're going to talk about finding people we know have a house for sale and also people we don't know have a house for sale. We can laser beam on the ones that have a house for sale, and we can get those we don't know to call us. We're going to do both. And a well-rounded marketing machine does both. And in fact, we've got a good example of that right up here. Some of the postcards that Richard's going to be mailing out, we don't have a clue if they have a house for sale. And the same with Kathy. Some of the postcards in mail that they're going to be mailing out are only to people we know have a house for sale. Target marketing, shotgun marketing. Target marketing, shotgun marketing. Both of them work. And if you do them correctly and spend the money in the right places, promise you guys are going to have more deals than you can handle. And that's the key. You got to get more prospects coming in than you can process. You cannot build a business around one or two prospects. You cannot have your income hinging on one short sale coming to fruition, because over 50% of them will never produce any revenue. You cannot build a business around getting one deed. You cannot spend your life chasing 1, 2, 3, 4 sellers, trying to make them motivated and get them to agree. Whack them. Get more of them coming. Fill the system with suspects, convert them to prospects. And does that exact same thing hold true no matter what business you're in or ever will be in? Say yes, Ron. If you're having trouble in your business, it's probably because you're not getting enough people to call you who have a house for sale. That's the first thing I'd look at. Who are your target prospects? Anybody who has a house for sale. Pretty, ugly, high price, low price, free and clear, leverage to the max and then some, north, south, east, and west of any area you want to work in, are your suspects until you quickly pre-screen them and turn them into prospects. They have all kinds of problems listed on that page. Same problems all humans have. Problems that you may not have experienced, so it might be hard for you to understand what motivates people. But until you're in their position, don't try to think like them or for them. Your job, give them solutions. Their job, accept or deny said solutions. Your job, if they accept, you buy a house. If they deny, you pass. That simple. Create opportunity for your sellers. Let those who wish take advantage of it. Get rid of the ones who don't and find more who do. If you continue to do that, you'll find that it takes very little of your time, because most of your pre-screening is going to be done before you ever come in contact with a seller if you implement the systems that we're going to help you put in place. And the same thing is going to hold true when you're selling with your buyers. Our advertising, our messages on page 80 are going to be benefit driven. I cannot give you a full-fledged marketing seminar here. In fact, we just had an information marketing boot camp here in Atlanta last week. It was a phenomenal boot camp where I taught people how to sell information products and the basics of marketing. Some online and mostly offline. Dan Kennedy and I taught this seminar along with a couple other folks that are quality at what they do and very qualified. And I went through the process of selling information products. And the marketing is the same, whether I'm selling information products, houses, widgets, food, or whatever. You have to create information, we have to create benefit-laden marketing messages, in your case, with people with houses for sale, can read and want to do business with you. And that means what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. They could care less what you want. They only care what they want. And if you don't ever forget that in your marketing, if you make sure that the benefits are always in your marketing has a much better chance of working than most of the marketing you see out there today. There's image marketing and there's direct marketing. You guys are not going to be doing anything except direct marketing. Every dollar you spend is going to require people to respond so you can measure your marketing. You can always see if it's working. You will never guess. You will always know if it's working. It's a very simple system we're going to set up, and it's very simple to track. If you look at the formula on page 81, ADA, page 81, get attention, get their interest, desire, and then cause them to take action. You'll see that as we go through our marketing pieces. You'll see that come to life. You'll see that our marketing doesn't look like most marketing, and it doesn't because it's supposed to get results. So let's start with item number 1, classified ads. In fact, I got Richard Roop up here, who happens to have an article in here on that. Don't know anybody better qualified to talk about classified ads than Richard, so let's go through some basics, Richard. And then I want Richard to show you what he's discovered about running classified ads that you won't get anyplace else. that works every time, works all over the place, puts you above your competition by leaps and bounds. A little couple of simple things that you can do with your classified ads to buy houses. Now remember, today we're focusing on buying houses. We're not selling today, we're buying. But classified ad basics are the same, whether you're selling or you're buying. Let's go through page 82 here, and then I'm going to let Richard talk about the article he's included in here and how he uses classifieds. You guys are going to be running, I would imagine, a substantial amount of classified ads. Maybe. I don't know, because you can run your business without them, buying and selling. If you live in a city like Atlanta, boy, these ads get expensive in this Atlanta Journal real fast. So you're probably going to have to find ways to buy and sell houses without running ads in the big paper, or at least keeping them down to a minimum. If you're going to run a lot of ads in your newspaper where you live, you ought to get a contract rate. You can get a contract rate. Call the paper, say, I'm going to run the ads. Give me the contract rate schedule. They'll fax you the schedule or email it to you, and you can see if you promise them X number of lines per year, they'll cut your advertising rate down. And worst case, you don't meet that, they send you a bill at the end of the year for the difference. In other words, you can't ever pay more than you're going to pay if you don't get the contract rate, is what I'm trying to tell you. Does everybody understand that? Check on the contract rate. Save you a lot of money. Run your ad under Real Estate Wanted if you're buying properties. I've had students experiment with other areas. I've even had students put ads in the personals that they buy a house, and they work. In the rental columns, and they work. You guys are probably going to want to run ads where you get the sellers to call you directly. And frankly, for the purpose of this course, that's exactly what I'm going to suggest that you do. And if you run an ad in the newspaper, how many calls should you expect? I get that question all the time. I don't know. Don't have a clue. I don't know. Depends on so many things, including not only the size of your market, but the month you're running them in, and the economic situation around you, and the activities going on in your city, and the alignment with the moon and the sun, and God knows what else. I don't know. I'm saying this: run the ad, and if you buy some deals from the ad, if you get some calls, if you get 10 calls a month from a newspaper ad, you're doing very well. If you get 5 calls a month and buy 2 houses from those 5, you're doing very well. If you get 5 calls and buy 1 house, you're doing very well. But you're not going to run an ad in the daily newspaper and expect to get 20 calls a day. It doesn't work that way, so don't plan on it. Your job, get a handful of calls, because you guys don't need more than a handful. A handful of calls at a time, you'll buy some of those houses. Incidentally, how many houses do you think you can buy? Some of you may be under the impression that you need to talk to 100 people to buy a house. Not in my world. No way. Not in my world. You're going to be talking to a lot less people. In fact, when you get it, you probably won't talk to more than a handful of people, 3, 4 at the most, before you buy a house. Some of you will be buying 1 house out of every 2 people you talk to. When you really get to the elite, when you really get to the top and understand autopilot marketing, you'll buy a house from everybody you talk to. Everybody. You want to say something, Richard, about that?
Yeah, I've created a very good formula to know if you're actually spending good money on classified ads. It's very simple, and it would allow you to know if your test is working or not. And what that comes down to, because I talk to a lot of investors on this, if you spend $500 on a classified ad
for a month.
No, at all, total. I mean, it could be $500 a year if you find a weekly shopper magazine that has a $10 classified ad, okay, and it runs weekly, that's $40 a month. You have to run that thing for an entire year before you pull it, if you're getting any calls. So the $500 rule is if you spend $500 and you don't get 10 to 15 calls, which is normally what you need to buy a house, normally, you can get it on the first call. But if you're not getting 10 to 15 calls for $500, then you could probably spend that money better elsewhere in another media or another newspaper. That's
probably a good rule of thumb. I'm not sure I agree with the 10, 15 calls to buy a house rule.
Well, that varies right there.
Yeah, depending on the kind of advertising you're doing. You're right. You're absolutely right, because I'll tell you right now, and I think I'm right on this since I don't take the calls. Donna takes them. But I would say we don't get anywhere near 10 calls to buy 1 house, do we, Donna? Donna, how many calls would you say we get on the average before we buy 1 house? 3. 3 calls, 1 house.
Now that will depend on your media.
That's correct.
That depends on your
Absolutely does depend on what you're using to advertise, and I bet you want to know what we do, right?
Yes.
That costs extra. We will get to it, because you will see that Donna and John and I have a very, very sophisticated machine set up to get leads. Oh, it's egregious. It's not. Believe me, it's not. I'm going to show you exactly what we do. And in fact, when we get to it this afternoon, I'm even going to show you a letter that John is sending out right now that is kicking butt. And you guys are going to see the simpler the better. And you just, it isn't that hard to get leads. Richard, you want to, well, let me wait just a second on that. Look at page 83, guys. Here's some ads right out of the Florida Times-Union. These are real ads come out of the Jacksonville paper. You see the ad at the very top? It says cash today. It ain't mine. But the one right below it is mine. That 4210196 was an ad that I used to run. And now look, skip down till you see the one down here near the bottom. Says an executive home needed to lease with option to purchase. 268-1649. That's Ray Rock's ad. What do those two ads have in common? White space. Give them the white space rule there, Richard.
Okay, I'll give you the white space rule. Is that? Do you want me to go over the other the article now, or just the white space?
I guess you could.
Well, first let me just add a few more things to page 82 real quickly. One of the best places to run classified ads is in a weekly shopper type magazine as opposed to the daily paper. For one, you want to target where your classified ad is going. If your classified ad is going to 2 million people, you don't want to buy in a market of 2 million people. My suggestion is we'll talk about this later this afternoon, but you want to target all your marketing into a smaller area. One way to do that is to get a community newspaper or a weekly shopper newspaper that targets where you want to buy. So then the ads are much cheaper, and the only classified ad I run today is one that I placed 2 years ago. I still get a good number of calls. It's so cheap. It's a weekly shopper. There's just no reason to pull it except for the fact that I'm getting calls from all over the city, and I like to target my area using direct mail.
Richard, would you recommend that everybody in this room run ads in the shoppers?
Yes.
It's so cheap, guys. You can't hardly not do that.
It's for the cost. Now, see, the problem is you're not going to get tons and tons of calls. So you have to do other things. So there's only so many calls you can attract using a weekly shopper targeted to an area. But you want to go ahead and capture them.
Or any media we're using, for that matter, which is a point we probably ought to make here. Guys, there's nothing you can do to tap the whole market. Every media you use gets a little portion of that market that another media wouldn't. Does that make sense? You can't touch all the people with houses for sale, nor do you want to. You couldn't handle the business. So anytime you run an ad in anything, remember they got to be reading that publication and have a house for sale to call you. So you're still after that little piece of the market. These ads came out of the Florida Times-Union. I don't think we currently have an ad in the Florida Times-Union to buy houses, do we, Donna? No. Why? It's too expensive. I can find better things to do with that money. An ad in there is $600-700 a month where we live, and I don't want to spend that on that ad. I got better things to do that produce better results. I ran an ad for years. I was in the Florida Times-Union. Just never came out 365 days a year. But when I got kind of dormant, I didn't put it back in, and Ray Rock doesn't have an ad in there right now either. Same reason. We just got.
I don't either.
Okay, so there you go. That makes a case for not spending a lot of money on an ad in your big paper. Now, what if you live in Paducah? I mean, for the $20 a month it costs to run an ad in a big paper, run it. So it'll get to the 12 people that live there.
And as far as selecting what newspaper to use, one thing that investors, a mistake that they make is if they see other investors in a newspaper, and I don't necessarily suggest the daily Metro paper. I like these weekly papers. But what if it's a community paper? It has to have a classified ad section, okay? You want to run a classified ad. And best thing is it has a real estate section, so a classified real estate section. If there are other investors advertising in that section, some investors don't want to go there because there's already someone there. I got to tell you, as long as they're consistent, that's where you want to be. You want to be where other people are using it and it's actually working. Otherwise, they would pull their ad.
Evidenced by page 83. There's usually about 20 ads in our local paper of a million people. So what? We all get calls. I'm telling you, don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Worry about what you're doing. And you run the ad. If you get calls, you leave it. If you don't, you pull it. That's simple. However, it's not required that you run an ad in your local paper. It is required, not required, nothing's required, but you should run them ad in your cheaper papers. In fact, if I were you, I'd also look for trade magazines, for association magazines, military papers, all these little cheap rags that you can run ads in for practically nothing. Now, you're going to say, well, what ad? I don't know. You know what? It don't matter what your ad says. As long as it says that you buy houses or something of that nature, take any of these ads you like. The key is to run them. Get the ad in the paper. Not worrying about making sure you got the right words in there. There are a few key words. In fact, let's go over a couple of them, Richard. I'll tell you what, let's wait till I get to my yellow pages, because I'm going to discuss them there anyway. The yellow page ads have a lot more words to choose from. But look at these ads. I can't believe you guys can't figure out a good ad to run here. Any suggestions on that? And Kathy as well. Do you run ads?
In the small neighborhood and community papers only.
Small neighborhood community papers. All right,
Yep.
What's your ad say, Kathy?
We buy, just real simple. We buy houses cash, any price range, any condition, any area, and a phone number. That's it.
That's
Real
my
simple.
ad that I used 22 years ago, Kathy. Certainly you got to make it better. Folks, you can't make it any better.
If it ain't broke,
Run
don't
the
fix
ad.
it.
Yeah.
All right, here's a classified ad you can run. This is what I run, and you'll see this again later. Because whatever you run, you want to be consistent. Decide on what your marketing message is going to be, and then be consistent with all your marketing. So my marketing message is: sell your house as is at a fair price on the date of your choice. We buy houses. 24-hour recorded info. That's it. So you'll see that later on today, but that's the same message in all of my marketing, my postcards, direct mail, larger display ads, or classified ads. So that's my headline. So a classified ad is a headline with a few benefits and a call to action. That's all it is. It's a headline, so you want a headline. If you have room, a few benefits, and then a call to action. Call you directly, or call a free recorded message, or go to your website. Sell your house as is at a fair price on the date of your choice. We buy houses.
Is that in here somewhere?
Yeah, it's going to be on the postcard that I hand out.
Oh, okay. Now, if you look through this article that Richard's attached graciously on page 84, 85, and beyond, you'll see a bunch of ads.
Those are fake ads.
Yeah, but they're still good ads.
Well, but I put those together as a demo.
Now tell them the big key here on page 85.
Well, yeah, on 83 you saw the white space above and below the ad. The main reason for that is to make it stand out in the newspaper. So you pay a little bit extra for a white space above and a white space below. That's the minimum if you want to just make it to stand out. I've gone a few steps further, and I've had people do this, and I've had tremendous stories. People, the newspaper is upset. The local realtors are upset. So when you get that type of response, you got a good ad.
Yeah.
Okay.
With white space.
Especially when you have an ad. I have several ads that some people, they just could not run in the paper, and because it looks too much like an article, or it doesn't sound too good to be true. So on page 84, you'll see the article. And I'll just cover the highlights on that. First of all, you do want a classified ad, obviously, so you determine what kind of ad you're going to run. And if you look on page 85, which ad in that graphic there jumps out at you?
Let me think. Could it be one with a circle around it?
Now, could you imagine it actually running like that in the newspaper? That's how it looks when it runs in the newspaper. It's not circled after the fact. It's circled before it's inserted into the newspaper. Now, this is very useful for selling houses, too. I got great letters on people who had trouble selling a house. They did this on a house for sale. They had no calls before, and then they sold the house in 3 weeks with all types of calls coming in. So it's both for buying and selling. Now, how do you do that? How do you get someone at the newspaper to circle your ad before they deliver it to 500,000 people? Okay. Well, if you look on the next page, page 86, what you do is you design your classified ad. This only works in a newspaper where you can insert a display ad. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a display ad, which is artwork. So you provide camera-ready artwork, or they can create it for you. But it's artwork that they insert in the classified ad column.
Stop. Everybody who doesn't know what he's talking about. All classified sections have display ads inserted in them. A display ad is a bigger ad where they
has
you
a
can do
box
anything you
around
want
it.
in that block.
It typically
they can
has
put
a
graphics
box
in
and some
there, you do all
graphics.
kind of crap.
Yeah.
Okay, they show pictures of cars and whatever. In other words, but it's in the classified section. But
And
you
I
run a
would-
display ad.
I would suggest you do not do that. If they try and talk you into that, do not do that unless you do it the way I'm suggesting here. Otherwise, you're better off just running a classified ad. The larger display ads in the classified section get less readership because people scan the classifieds in the classified section. So, you design a display ad that looks like a classified ad. You put white space above and white space below, but you also put a little white space on the left and the right, so you have room to actually circle your ad that runs in the classified section. So you're inserting a display ad that looks like a classified ad, but already has the artwork circled around it.
So on page 87, the one that's circled,
on page 86 at the bottom, there's the one above that. That's your artwork, and then you've actually circled it. And see the little crop marks on the corners? That's the boundaries of your ad. So this is like a 1.5-inch display ad that's inserted in the classified column.
1.5 inches high, but it's 1 column inch wide, which is the same width that the classified column is.
And then you design the text, the font of your ad to look like the same font that the classified ads are. So you design it to look the same. Now you could have the newspaper do this for you, or you can get your 13-year-old son probably to do this for you on their computer. Just show them the classified ad, say this is what I want. In fact, just show them this article, and it lays it out step by step.
But I will show them on page 87. Do you guys understand that all 3 of those ads are run by Richard?
Yeah, on page 87 we went one step further. What we did is for the same size ad, we just cut down the actual ad, which is the one in the middle, how to sell, is the headline. And then we have a kind of 2 bogus ads, one on the top, one on the bottom. Okay? Now, they could be real ads. And when I did this, I actually used real ads. My different types of thing, like fair price for owner-financed homes. I'll take those calls. And then Marketing Pro will help sell your business. Okay, I used to take those calls. All right. So the one in the middle, this was actually on a book that I wrote, How to Sell Your Home in 9 Days. It's on an auction process. How to Sell Your Home in 9 Days for the Best Price, No Commission. So that was actually for my book. You just have your I Buy Houses ad in there, okay? And then when you design it, you can actually cross through the top ad and the bottom ad. So it actually really, really looks like someone...
So you're buying the space that those 3 ads take up, and you can put anything you want in those space, including a circle.
Yeah, and if you don't have anything, you can go ahead and just have fake ads.
Now, your newspaper may not allow you to run that. However, you'll find very little resistance out of your weekly trade magazine, or your shoppers and so forth.
Some papers will not do this. I actually learned this from a car dealer where they had a long display ad that lists all their cars, and they had a few of those cars circled within the display ad. So that's how I learned it.
And the papers that do allow you to run it may not allow you to run it long when they're pissed off advertisers call them and say, hey, how come my ad isn't circled? You know?
I will have to, I'm going to see if I can get a overhead copy of this so I can show this later. But this is my Yellow Page ad. And it's also in the big Metro paper, but this is my ad right here.
No kidding. Yeah, we got to get a copy of this.
Okay. And what it is when I ran my Yellow Page, it's the first time I did it in the Metro paper. It paid for itself the first month. It started in January. $600 a month is a lot of money. I'd rather spend it on postcards, so I'm kind of wish I didn't do it. But I bought a house the first month and made $35,000 or something.
Yeah.
But I'd rather spend that in a targeted area because that was like at the north end side of town. But I was willing to travel.
Would you guys like to have a copy of his ad?
Okay.
Even though we're getting to Yellow Pages, the theory is the same.
The Yellow Page ad looks like an article, but here's what I did. I took a blue marker and circled it before it ran. So my Yellow Page ad is circled in the Yellow Page ad, or in the Yellow Pages.
Well, okay, we got it. We've got 2 messages here.
Yeah.
The advertorial and the circle both combine 2 very, very little known marketing techniques into one ad. And I'll guarantee you, if there's anybody else in this Yellow Pages, Richard's getting 10 times more calls than they are.
And it's also in the big one. That's the smaller local one, which they also duplicated in. As far as the classified ads and circling those, do that. Try it. See if you can get it done. It definitely kicks up your calls. I got a letter, 300% increase in calls and stuff. Can you imagine? Because I've also had a guy, I did that when I was selling a house, and the guy said he was calling on it because he thought his secretary circled the ad for him to call.
That's
and
good.
You open the paper and there's all these ads and you see one that's circled. So that's why the article's called "How to Make Your Classified Ads Jump Off the Page," because that's exactly what it does.
All right, just make sure everybody understands this, because guys, you can combine ads to sell houses with ads to buy houses, and should in your weekly papers. Consider these column inches. Okay, in other words, these are the columns in the paper, 3 wide, 4 wide, however. And then, of course, they run ads in blocks, come across here like this, boom, boom, boom. Let's just say these are normal ads in here, like that. All you do is buy a chunk of space. For example, you could buy this chunk right here instead of just buying one classified. Everybody with me? Like 2 columns wide would be nice. And then you can take that square and put whatever ad you want to put in it. You got an overhead of that by any chance? Because I know it's in one of your reports. I think you'll see. In fact, there might be an example of that back here in the selling, but we're going to get to it later. Now, what I did, I put I buy house ad, I sell houses, I buy. Now, different ads. And you ought to mix the phone numbers up as well. Buy, sell, buy, sell, buy. And in other words, I own the whole block, and I get buying calls and selling calls out of the same block of ads, and I can draw circles and draw ugly faces and whatever I want in that block. I'm buying that block. I can put anything I want in that block, including circling the one ad that I want to draw the focus to. Even if I, like he did, even if I put a line through the phone number of the ad above it, looked like that guy got screwed.
Yeah, I did that in the Weekly Shopper. I had 3 columns just like that. I had 11 houses for sale, and I wanted to advertise 9 of them, but I didn't want to buy any more houses. This was like in December or something, and I didn't want to buy any more houses at the moment. So I did exactly that. I had all those ads, a few of I buy house ads, but the 9 ones to sell houses, I circled each of those and ran it as a display, just like we talked about.
All right. If you wish, I could take a couple of questions on classified ads, because frankly, it is not more complicated than that. Just pick an ad, run it where you're going to run it, best bang for the buck, leave it in there. If it works, leave it. If it doesn't work, pull it out, do something else. Not complicated. Make sure that the phone number works that you're putting in the ad, and be sure to put a phone number in the ad.
And what's nice about once you have a good low-cost classified ad bringing you a steady stream of calls, not tons, but a steady stream, you don't ever pull it. It's a system. Now that's on automatic.
I can tell you right now, there's not a person in this room that can't replace their current job with one classified ad staying in a weekly shopper if they have them where you live, because it only takes a few houses a year to replace your job. Yes.
Are you answering the phone calls directly, or
we're getting to all that? Right, we're getting to all that. We're not going to get into capturing calls right now. We're going to stay on the techniques to get the calls. So let's move on to Yellow Pages, which is next in your book. No question on classified ads?
Yeah.
Okay.
The other numbers that you run alongside the circled ad or whatever.
Yeah.
Are those numbers being answered by anybody at all? Are they real numbers or anything like that?
Yeah. Yeah, if you're going to run ads, you might as well get a good bang for the buck. Obviously, if you're going to run ads, when you get through the system here, you'll see that you're going to have a different number for selling houses than you do buying houses.
Okay.
But it's not important. If they weren't real numbers, in fact, you can run ads with no phone numbers. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But I wouldn't. Why waste the space?
But if the key is that you get that circle going into the ad above and below, it really looks real, like someone really circled it.
Yeah, I'd use them. I'd get 2 or 3 different numbers, and I'd use some for buying and some for selling. Hey, if you got something to sell, might as well put it in there, make it look like it made it in the wrong column. Thoroughbred horse for sale. Stick it right in there.
What I'm thinking is maybe with the phone company you can get like different numbers and have it all forwarded to one common number.
Sure.
So you have
easy.
They all come to the same number.
Absolutely.
Or just use the same number in all 3. It doesn't matter.
It looks kind of stupid.
Yeah, you know what? He's right.
But it gets attention.
It doesn't matter. I want you guys to quit worrying about all that crap that doesn't matter now. As long as somebody's answering the phone, none of that matters. What matters is you get the ad and get it in the paper. Get the phone ringing. Yes.
Please explain one-step and two-step ads.
Oh, I didn't want to do that because I knew you guys weren't going to do the two-step, so I'm trying to stick to one step, and now we got it, don't we?
In Texas, we do the two-step.
You do, huh?
I'll cover a little bit on two-step when I talk about postcards, which
In a
is a
nutshell,
one-step.
you got two choices. Get customer to call you direct or get customer to order some kind of free information or free report, send it to them, and then they call from that. That's two-step. This is one step. I'm trying to get you guys started quickly and easily, and I know that if you got to go print or create a report or something that stands, it just gives you an excuse not to do something. But you know, if I can tell you to go run an ad and it's got your phone number in it and you can pick up the phone, you can do that Monday, have calls coming in Tuesday. Got it? Yes.
Okay,
Excuse me, and if you want, you're not going to learn everything there is to know about marketing today. In fact, I helped Kathy create an event of her own just to carry this marketing thing beyond what we're going to do today. So don't feel like there's no place else for you to go. But honestly, you're going to have more to do after today than you're going to be able to implement anyway. Go ahead.
In my local paper, all the I Buy Houses ads are display ads, and they all have borders around them. Am I better off going with a wider border, or just since everybody has a border or a box around them, should I do away with it?
What you do is instead of using a box border, you use the handwritten circle.
And white space above and below the ad. That's two extra lines. One white above, one white below. I'm telling you, if you don't believe it, just go home and look into your newspaper, get one tonight, and look for ads that have white space and see if they don't just suck your eyeballs to them like a magnet. White space. If you didn't do anything but white space, you're going to get a lot better readership than everybody else in the classifieds. And sure, it'll cost you two extra lines. So what? Might make you 30 grand on a deal.
Ron, one comment on the display ads. Something that we do in our little community papers and in the little shoppers, they will allow us to use color in our ads.
Really?
And we use color in our ads. Every ad that I write, every magnetic, every flyer has exactly the same wording and exactly the same colors.
No kidding.
So no matter where somebody sees me, they know it's me. And it's amazing. Our colors are Kelly green and white. And even if someone else runs an ad in Kelly green and white, I get the phone call. It's absolutely amazing.
How do you do that with their phone number in it?
Because they'll already have our phone number and they've been thinking about selling it, and then they'll see somebody else's ad and call me.
Well, that's cool. If you
happens all
can
the
get
time.
color, and why not? I mean,
Yeah.
not the case in my shopper.
If you can get free color, what I like to do when I get free color and I run a display ad is I like to put some handwritten notes or handwritten circles and stuff in reflex blue, so it looks like a blue pen.
Yeah. Right. Okay, Yellow Pages. Downside. You got to make a commitment for a year. Upside, downside, that's scary, isn't it? In fact, if you'll turn to page 91, you'll see our Yellow Pages ad. Right at the top right-hand corner, it says Ron's ad there. That costs $650 a month. However, I got to tell you, that is the heartbeat of our marketing campaign. That's where most of our deals come from. Is that correct, Donna? At least 1/3? Really? About how many calls, Donna, would you say we are getting from that Yellow Pages ad on an average month, which means some more and some less? 15 or 20 a month from that Yellow Pages ad. Okay? Now, guys, I've been in the Yellow Pages. This is only my second year. And in fact, every year that goes by, more of these ads crop up. Because I tell my students, by the way, if you're in Jacksonville, they quit working in Jacksonville. They don't work in Jacksonville anymore. So this, of course, is the Jacksonville Yellow Pages. If you look over at the left where it says Bill Buys Houses, that's Bill Duquette, one of my trained assassins. That's his ad. Bill is doing very, very well. Bartender to real estate entrepreneur. Doing very well. High six-figure income. My ad is right there where it says Ron's ad. Here's another one I don't recognize. We'll get you out from under your home. And I think that's Bo's ad down at the bottom. Is Bo back here? I believe that's Bo's ad, 260-8469. We buy houses down at the bottom. And there's a Bold City ad there. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ads just on those 2 pages of We Buy Houses alone in our Yellow Pages, and yet we still get 10, 15 calls per month. Now look at my ad. There's some decent language in my ad, but I don't want you guys to get hung up on that because that's not as near as important as getting that ad in the paper. You'll notice it's dollar bill size. Turn the page here for a moment, and you'll see a full page ad, which I would not recommend under any circumstances anybody in this room run in the Yellow Pages. First, it's foolish. It's ungodly expensive. And third, most of all, you would not know this if I didn't tell you. You will not get as many calls on that full page ad as you get on that dollar bill size ad. How do you think I know this? Every time I've tried to run a full page ad, I get less calls than the smaller ads. I've run tests where I run a full page ad in the shopper and I get less calls than the classified ad in the shopper. I don't know why. My guess is that people are so conditioned to full page advertisements that they don't even read that. They scan it by, or they think anybody who can run a full page ad is too sophisticated for me to deal with. I don't know. I just know you don't need to run that big of an ad. If your competition has got full page ads, that's not how you beat them. You don't run a bigger ad. You run a better ad, or you find other ways to get deals. You don't ever run an ad that big. I'll tell you one thing though, if you put just that ad on page 93 into a dollar bill ad, that's all you're going to need to get the phone ring. You don't need any more language than that. Take a look back at some of my language and I'll give you some key words that I think are some reasons why they work. Walk away today. I hate to give away that secret. I learned it from a student, but they are words that seem to work, and except in Jacksonville. You notice I've got on there, we specialize in executive homes. Donna, do you think that that's getting us, because we're not getting very many calls on higher priced homes from this ad, I can tell you that. In fact, we got to crank up a campaign to get to the higher priced houses. We're getting, what would you say our average house is, Donna? 100 to 300,000? That's right. Well, I want some of the $1 million houses, $2 million houses. So we're going to create a campaign specific, and he's going to help us with his postcards specifically focused in on doing that. And we're going to use Kathy's system as well to get to the higher priced properties. This ad does not get them the call, at least in our area. So I doubt that line means anything to them. People like to know that they can sell their house even with no equity. Those are good words. Behind on payments are also good words. We have, see where it says free special report? One of these days we'll get around to creating one of those. Won't we, Donna? Yeah. I learned that from Ray Rock. In fact, turn a page, you'll see Ray's ad. Turn 2 pages. Ray didn't have one in there last year. Turn over page 94. Rick Wheat's ad's at the top, Ray Rock's ad's in the middle. Look at Ray Rock's ad. Isn't that an ugly ad? The ugliest ad. And he still buys 3, 4, 5 houses a month from it. Look, don't try to sell your house until you read this in bold letters. By the way, guys, don't ever use all caps. See how he uses all caps? Very hard to read. Don't use all caps. Now, you can get away with it when you're using short words like we buy houses. Look right above it. See where it says we buy houses? On that ad above it, it's all caps. I still wouldn't use all caps. We got away with it there, but I wouldn't use them. You capitalize the first letter only, initial caps they call it. I tell you, it's a lot easier to read. When you use all caps, you're screaming at them, you're shouting at them, and you make it more difficult to read. Let's see if I did it over here in my ad. See, look at my ad, we buy houses. Is it all caps? No, it is not. But for some reason, everybody thinks all caps gets more attention. Doesn't. It gets less attention. Look at Ray's ad. Man, he screwed up everything he could touch here. Poorly laid out, but what's important is the language in it got people to call. And Ray says down here for free report, he ain't had a free report in his life. Here's how he handles it. They call in for the free report, which is just a different number that still goes to him. They say, I expected to get a voicemail. I'm calling for a free report. He says, well, sometimes I take it off and answer it myself. You got a house for sale? Yes. Well, just tell me about it, and I'll get the information now and tell you if I can help you. Okay. No, I don't have a house for sale. Well, then why are you calling for a free report?
How do you compare the community Yellow Pages books to the real Yellow Pages as far as...
I would always use the real Yellow Pages, but you do have choices nowadays. You got any input on that?
Yeah, I think you should be targeting all of your marketing into a smaller area as opposed to all over town. So Yellow Pages get you calls from all over town. If that's what you want, you get in the Metro Yellow Pages. But if you want to target a smaller community of like 20,000 homes or 25,000 homes, and they have a community phone book, do that. Be careful of the fake Yellow Pages, okay? There's usually the real Yellow Pages, and then there's these several knockoffs that don't get the readership like the main one. If you're going to use the Metro, make sure you're in the main Yellow Pages.
Depends on where you live. You live in Atlanta, you may not want to go into the main Yellow Pages.
See, I mean, Atlanta's too big. You don't want to spend your money all over the state.
And that's the key ingredient right there. If you live in Atlanta, Dallas, Houston, Chicago, LA, DC, yada, 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 you guys can't afford to advertise to the whole city, nor do you want to. I can tell you, I got some $1 million students plus here in Atlanta, and I can't think of one of them that'll buy a house wherever they come to them in Atlanta. Most of them concentrate on an area of Atlanta where they live or where they want to do business, whether in the ugly house or the pretty house business. And they focus in on that. So the last thing you want to do is run an ad in the big Yellow Pages that reaches all of Atlanta. You run it county by county. In other words, Gwinnett. I live in Gwinnett. I'm going to put it in the Gwinnett Yellow Pages, not in the whole city. Besides, it would be ungodly expensive, and you couldn't handle the leads that come in if you did. Go ahead.
Any tips or tricks for buying Yellow Page ads as
Yes,
cheaply as possible?
we're getting to that.
Okay.
Yes, as cheaply as possible. Good luck on that one.
Okay.
They're going to charge you what they're going to charge you. You can try to negotiate it down. Placement is probably more important than price.
Yeah, and we already talked about size. You don't have to be the biggest.
Dollar bill size. Those
Dollar
are
bill
real ads.
size or a quarter page, like you saw, like Bill Duquette's is a quarter page.
Yeah.
Okay, and then you can't just assume they want your money. They want your advertising dollar. You know, whatever you can agree on. But go ahead and negotiate with them. Just see how far you can get with them.
Always try to get a right-hand upper page, and they will tell you they can't guarantee it. Then you say, well, how much would it cost for you to guarantee it? Because I can tell you, if you can get that right-hand upper page, you're going to get more calls than everybody else in that book. And that is true with any publication, including newspapers and magazines. Right-hand upper page will always get more readership than the rest of it. However, is that critical? No, because you may not have a choice anyway. By the way, the first year I was in there, I didn't get the right-hand upper page. Still got calls, still bought houses, or I wouldn't have put it in the second year. The second year I got it by a fluke because we didn't bribe them, at least not that I know of. And I looked in the. In fact, Donna, have you looked in the Yellow Pages come out for this year, haven't they? Because they come out in June. Donna, John, are we in the upper right-hand page or not? Pardon me? You didn't get a new phone book yet. It ain't June yet, dummy. Okay, I get it. I doubt we'll be in the upper right-hand page, because they generally just rotate them. However, I will tell you this, in my experience, they take care of the older advertisers first. They give them a little bit more attention than they do the brand new ones. Some tips. Negotiate. Try to get in the upper right-hand corner. But I'm not sure I want a brand new investor leaving this room who's never even taken a call on the house to go home and put an ad in the Yellow Pages. I'm more concerned about what you're going to do with the calls anyway than I am you getting leads, and there's other ways. In other words, the Yellow Pages is a very good way to get leads, guys, but it may not be for all of you. And in fact, you might want to wait till your second year to experiment with a Yellow Pages ad.
Absolutely, because you're committed and you want to get your buying and selling system set up before you commit to a year. You also might find some really cool stuff that works in your marketing that you'll want to put in your Yellow Pages later. First, you can test with postcards and small display ads and different types of marketing. You can test, find out what message works best for you. Then when you got a killer message, then you're ready to put it in.
I agree with that. And incidentally, if you want to take my ad and knock it off word for word, I don't care. Do it. You might want to change the phone numbers on it, but do it.
Now you can test his Yellow Page ad by putting it on a postcard and using it as a test that way.
That's a great idea, guys. Take the Yellow Pages ad and put it on a postcard. And incidentally, once you created an ad, you've created it for all your media. It's the same language. You just reformat it in a different way. So some of you in the room right now, you need to go home and find out when the deadline for your next Yellow Pages are. Others of you, perhaps making a $600, $700, $800 a month commitment doesn't scare you as much because you're in a better financial condition and you want to just go ahead and do it. That's fine with me. What's the worst going to happen? You run the ad and you don't get any calls. And chances of that, guys, are about slim to none. I can tell you that right now. And here's what else I learned about the Yellow Pages that I honestly don't know why this is the case. And neither does anybody else. We all have our opinions maybe, but for some reason, the calls we get on the Yellow Pages are better quality calls than a lot of the other media.
Well, it's because they're in the phone book, in the real estate section, looking for answers to either buy or sell a house. So they're very targeted. It's very targeted. That's why it works. You got a higher quality call.
That's your best guess.
That's my guess.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions on Yellow Pages? Because there isn't a lot to know about that. To the mic, there isn't a lot to know about that we haven't discussed. I'll tell you what what I'm worried about for you is you're going to go home and you're going to worry about what to say so much you don't ever get around to doing it. Hey, copy the ad and get it in there if it's your time. Forget about what to say. If they work for me, they'll work for you. I promise you, Bill Duquette's been in here for 3 years. Bill Duquette's entire empire runs from that Yellow Pages ad because it's about all he does. It's all he needs to do. I've been in there this will be my 3rd year. This ad down at the bottom has been there for 2 years. In fact, if somebody see Bo, I want to know if that's Bo's ad in there.